Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of We Give Summit. I'm Sophia, Vice President of Programs at Philanthropy Together, and I'm so glad you guys are all here with us today. Before we dive in, we're going to open with something really special that gets straight to the heart of why this community exists. You're about to watch a performance of students from the Chicago chapter of Creative Network, a national nonprofit that inspires, educates, and builds community through dance culture. With staff and students in 7 cities across the US, international performances, and opportunities for connection and expression for community members of all ages, Creative Network develops the next generation of leaders, builds a vibrant network of artists, and increases access to dance education. What you'll see in the performance is footwork and light feet, 2 styles of dance that weren't born in studios. They were born in communities as acts of collective expression and joy and resilience. And I think that matters because so was the work of collective giving, as we know. The students in this performance trained with Creative Network staff in the Chicago footwork and wellness programming that's offered through Creative Network, where they learned the cultural roots and foundation of this regionally based dance and music form that has lineage in house music, alongside things like meditative concentration, journaling, breathing techniques, leadership development, and teamwork activities, and so much more. Creative Network has been part of my story for a long time and is a big part of why I care so deeply about funding the work of community organizations. More than a decade ago, I was part of the team at the organization's very beginning, and I had the privilege to help found the Chicago chapter. I believe deeply in what this work represents because from the very beginning, Creative Network was built on the belief that communities know what they need, and that when people show up for each other through crowdfunding, through mutual aid, through collective support, something extraordinary gets built. They have been the beneficiary of that kind of giving, the kind that doesn't apply unnecessary restraints. And then they've turned around and extended it to the teaching artists and families that they serve. And that reciprocity is the whole point of why we're here. In about 5 minutes, we're going to hear from Glen Galaich, whose new book, Control, asks us to examine the ways that philanthropy has been shaped by the wrong instincts. And I think there's no better way to set the table than with this performance. So without further ado, please enjoy the performance from Creative Network students.
Hi, everyone. How are you? Welcome to day 2 of We Give Summit. Look where we are. We're super fancy this morning. How many years at We Give Summit I will be dying to be sitting on the same place with our speaker. We get to do this. So I am super excited about this next conversation because we go directly to what we have been exploring all summit, what it really means to share power and give together. Our next speaker is Glen Galaich, CEO of the Stupski Foundation.
It's all over. It's all over the room.
Stumble with the name, Stupski Foundation, and author of Control, Why Big Giving Falls Short. Glen's book is refreshing and deeply honest. It pushes back against donor-centric philanthropy and the idea that giving should be something done to communities rather than with them. So today, Glen is going to help us name some of the unwritten rules in big philanthropy, understand where they come from, and think seriously about what it would actually take to move more money, share more power, and let go of the control that keeps philanthropy from meeting this moment. And before we jump in, Glen's book is available now. They're going to put it on the chat. We Give Summit attendees get a discount if you didn't buy the swag, bought the swag. So we're dropping the link in the chat, and I really hope you grab a copy because you cannot miss it. Like, I started reading it, and I finished it in like a few days.
So amazing.
Yeah, please join me in welcoming Glen Galaich.
Thank you, Sara. This is a real treat. We've been practicing and getting ready for this live moment in front of the audience, and it's also very weird for me too because I'm usually sitting where you are, interviewing someone for Break Fake Rules, which is our podcast. So some people may recognize, if you've seen the podcast, you might recognize the backdrop. We actually do sit on this sofa back here on occasion.
Okay.
We do. Yeah, we don't.
This is like totally special for We Give Summit.
Yeah, this is the We Give Summit super behind the scenes situation.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. And I want to start by, you call this book a conversion story.
Mm-hmm.
And most people in this room never needed conversion.
That's right.
Converting because they started with community. So tell us about that moment when you realized the system that you have spent 25 years championing wasn't actually working. Was there one conversation, one grant meeting, one community leader that cracked that conversion moment for you?
That's a really good question. And I appreciate what you just said, that for so many people listening today and watching, conversion isn't necessary. You came in with community first. When I entered into philanthropy back in early 2000, it was, we're in the Bay Area, and around here, there was a lot of excitement because we were going through the first .com thing, right? So since then, we've had .com 2.0, and now we have AI. And it's weird being here for AI now because it's all happening again.
Yes.
Tons and tons of people making tons and tons of money in places where we don't know how they're making the money, and we all know it's probably going to crash at some point, and all these same things. It's like The Matrix, if you've seen that movie. So at the time that I started, there was a strong orientation toward what we called then, and I'm trying to rename with control, strategic philanthropy, as if there's only one way to do strategic philanthropy. And that way was actually donor-centered strategic philanthropy. So what does that mean? It meant that, and I actually ran an organization for some time where we trained this to give according to what you, the donor, want to do. So what is it that you need? What is it that you want to do? How are you going to get focused? What are you passionate about? What are your values? A lot of foundations and donor advised funds are built on donor interest. And we train that. And I trained that for about 15 years. That was why I ended up here at Stupski. So to answer your question, if you fast forward about 15, 16 years into the 2017-18 time, you might remember some things that started happening then. In the sector, there was a much greater emphasis on DEI and on bringing in new voices, different voices, diverse voices and perspectives into philanthropy, not just white ones. There was some books came out, Winners Take All, which is one that kind of rocked the Bay Area for sure, because there was this belief in effective altruism, and you can make money and do good at the same time. And I think Anand sort of blew the doors open on that one. And then, of course, Edgar's book came out, Decolonizing Wealth. So there was a context for me. I was starting to shake a little bit under that and being more, kind of thinking through it. So to the point, there was a conference. There was a moment for me. There was a conference down at Stanford. They still do it. It was called the Nonprofit Management Institute.
Yes.
A 2-day conference. And that year they brought in a whole bunch of Black leaders, and they brought in some racial justice activists. And, what really got me in the moment that the racial justice activists spoke was the consequence became clear to me of donor-centered philanthropy. they were saying things, not just that they were being ignored by foundations or they could not get grants from foundations. There was a book that came out shortly before that time called The Revolution Will Not Be Funded, about a project and program that Ford had started. And when the board saw the program, they pulled back all the grants out of fear that they were funding something like communism. And there was just the general message from the crowd, from the speakers was, you're harming us. You're harming us. And here I was, a true believer in this idea that we should center the donor because donors want to do good things. And I do believe they do. Let me be clear. But that it's not necessarily the donor's perspective that's most effective for the communities that, really need this capital. So that was where it started for me. I came back to the office, and it turned out there were several people when I walked in the door and said, you know what, I think we need to do this a little differently. They were ready. They were ready for the CEO to change as well. So there was a lot of openness on staff already. It just kind of, the way our organizations are structured, sometimes the CEO needs to wake up to make things happen.
I love it. I love it. And I mean, this is a perfect way to get started. And the big idea of the book is what you call the mindset of control,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
This belief that donors have, that charitable assets are still their money.
Right.
And even if after they have gotten the full, tax deduction, right? And you have been very clear about this. Like once you take that tax benefit, that money is not yours anymore.
Yeah.
So where does that control mindset actually live?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
It's a big question. I'll do my best to be, keep it together here.
Yes.
But first of all, it is our system of foundation and donor advice fund. It's the sector itself, the system we have brought about really encourages a mindset of control. We are basically saying to people who have done very well in the economic system. So this is the Carnegie argument. If you can do well in the economic system, you're unique. And therefore you have a unique power, and you should decide to give away your money, and you should do it as you want to do it. So that is an operating system we've had for over a century. And there's been a lot written about that. Dimple Abendchandani in her book goes into great detail about Carnegie, so I highly recommend you pick up her book.
We had her last year. She was one of our keynotes.
And I'm sure she talked about Carnegie, so I won't go through that. But what I will get into is that I think that fosters a mindset of control. And as a result, in the book, we ask people to think about themselves on a spectrum of control. So it's the one exercise we do have in the book. This is not a book that has a lot of checklists and discussion questions, and it's really a story in many ways, but there is one guiding, heuristic, which is on the one end, you have excessive donor control, and on the other end, you have community engagement. And ask the donor or anyone giving or anyone working in a foundation, anyone doing anything in philanthropy, ask yourself, where do you think you sit and how can you progress along it? So to your point and the question you're asking about, how does it show up?
Yes.
It shows up many ways. To get a little more clear on what you were referencing there, when someone gives a grant to an organization, it is no longer their money.
Yes.
Right? So where people get a little bit confused, I think, when it comes to foundations, and it's in the language that makes it confusing. A private foundation is not a no trespassing here kind of thing. A private foundation is a private foundation because one donor has given to that organization, just one. That makes it a private foundation. But once the money goes there, a massive amount of public money comes in a sense.
Yes.
It's tax subsidized. It is tax exempted. We, the American people, now have cut a deal with a donor and said, we'll match our money with you, and this organization will serve the public. Okay?
It is public good money.
It is public good money. And so what happens, where the mindset of control comes in, is that the donor then says, well, if I've given all this money to a foundation, I should really be on the board. I should write the bylaws. I should put myself on the board. I should put my family on the board. I identify another character in the book called the consigliere. A lot of families bring on a member, a person who's a close friend, maybe the accountant, maybe the lawyer, investment advisor, to be on the board of that foundation. And let's just be clear, none of those people are required to be on the board of a private foundation. So in just that structural decision, you are centering the donor's needs in the giving. You are saying these are the people who know best about how to help society. And you are automatically, right out of the chute, I'm not saying that donors can't be capable of understanding community needs. Of course they can. You've got a whole bunch of people working in giving circles that know what communities need. But the further up you go, I think in the wealth spectrum, the further you get away from proximity to communities. And those folks dominate private foundation boards. So the question just is, are they engaging in public stewardship or private stewardship?
Yes.
That's the question.
Something that I love about the book and talking about the spectrum, you said pathways are made by walking, right?
Yes.
Because what I understood is like, yeah, I mean, you're not asking people to go from being completely donor-centric to totally community-centered in a year, right?
Right.
It's
right.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
You're talking about private foundations. What about donor advised funds?
Yeah,
because maybe we don't have many people on the audience that have a private foundation, but we may have some board members from private foundations. But we have a lot of DAF holders.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have a whole spiel on DAFs that's now been kind of upended in the last couple of weeks. Donor advised funds, I think a lot of donors, from what we can tell from the data, behave similarly, if not even more controlling than they do in a private foundation setting. So I'm sure everyone knows here listening, DAFs they don't have a minimum give, right? Private foundations, due to a law passed in 1969, are required to give a 5% of their available assets on an annual basis. Donor advised funds are not. And I used to say, basically donor advised funds are so controlled by the donor that the organizations that house them rarely get in the mix of giving that money away. They rarely counter the advice of a donor. They don't actually step in on behalf of the community. And of course, that's no longer true. In the last couple of weeks, Fidelity, Vanguard, and Schwab, Schwab is another big one, are all now blocking any donors who want to give money to SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center, on the grounds that they're saying because they've been indicted. The organization's been, in my opinion, very, very wrongly indicted, that donors can't give to them. So now we have seen that, I don't know what community those three entities are supporting, but we have now seen that they will step in and block grants. In this case, unfortunately, I think it's very wrong. But for the most part, donor advised funds operate very similarly. I think there's a real challenge here. Money is not moving as it should. And like private foundations, which I know we're going to get to, which is just where is all that money today as a result of this control?
Yeah. So you touch on this, right? Like this idea that the wealthiest people must know best, right? And I look around, the chat room and all of our, audience at We Give Summit, and it's full of people that believe the exact opposite. They believe that everyone is a philanthropist. So our, giving circles, collaborative funds are incredibly diverse. And that diversity is what makes the work better. So how does what we are doing, like everyday people pulling resources, making decisions together, actually disrupt that story of the mindset of control?
Well, first of all, obviously, if control is really overwhelming a donor, and I think it overwhelms a lot of donors, when you're already taking a big step down the pathway to say, I want to do this with other people of diverse interests. You're already moving outside of it. You're probably not someone who is so wed to the way that you do things that you can't work with other people. So you're obviously in a giving circle. You are craving community. You are craving working with other people. You are craving hearing other perspectives, and that just is not, in my experience, very common in the private foundation world. And I really want to be clear about something here, because if you're watching this and you're thinking of some private foundations that you either worked at or you work at or you might say, well, I can name a few that he's not right. That's not universal. Well, first of all, I'm not sure how many people are aware of this. I'll ask you, do you know how many private foundations there are in the United States?
Actually, no.
Do you want to take a guess?
My God, thousands.
Go ahead. How many? Like throw a number out there. Let's do it.
My God, no, Glenn.
Come on, just take a shot.
Okay.
No, everybody else is feeling the same way.
20,000?
20,000. Okay, so the number is 150,000 private
foundations.
That's right. And we don't even know how many donor advised funds there are. Okay. So of the private foundations, 150,000, if you and I sat here today and you have a long history working in the sector, if we went over to the whiteboard over there and just started writing them all down, you and I together are probably going to come up with 1,000.
Yes.
Maybe 1,000 if we're lucky. So that means there's 149,000 other private foundations out there that are not on our radar screen. So you could say some of them are probably also doing really great community-oriented work, and I'm sure they are. But the overwhelming number are getting advice from their estate planners, from their investment advisors, and from their accountants, and they're being told, do this the way you want to do it. Do this to make your family happy. Do this to be unified. And the same is going on with donor advised funds. It's about the family. So if someone is going to go out and say, I want to break out of this and go work with other people, very unique. And I think that's wonderful that this audience and this crowd is taking that perspective. And you need to spread the word.
Yeah, totally. Keep doing what we are doing.
Yeah, you really do. And you need to take the lessons of the giving circle environment out to private foundations. And I will tell you, not to go too far on this, but I think it's a great topic. In 2025, we saw the most dynamic, deep and wide coordination and collaboration amongst private foundations, led by a number of terrific, very active leaders in the sector that became very worried about the threats coming out of Washington, D.C. That effort in March and in April of last year, in my opinion, prevented the sector from coming under abusive regulation. As much as I'd like to see regulation, this was partisan, abusive regulation coming out of the White House. That said, what happened as a result, in my opinion, is that a culture of protection set into the foundation sector, meaning we need to protect our assets, protect our asses. And as a result of that, you have a culture now that went the opposite direction from letting go.
Yes.
So you have a scenario, and this is one of the oddest environments I've experienced in the years I've been in it, and I'm sure you would agree. In past years, when there has been an external shock to the sector, whether it's recession or pandemic, we all are experiencing that shock in some way, foundations, nonprofits alike. With the White House shock, primarily nonprofits, grant-seeking entities have experienced this shock.
Yes.
Foundations, on the other hand, if anyone pays attention to the markets, and not all foundations are in the general stock market, but it's a good measure. The stock market went up 10,000 points last year.
Yeah.
So this is the year, with all the talk about helping the sector, that we should have seen massive amounts of capital coming in. But instead, control really set in. And we've seen some of our largest foundations in the country praising themselves over giving 6-7% this year, when in my opinion, we're really needing to be in the 10, 12, 15%. This foundation last year, we did 72% of our grant-making assets out. We expedited our spend out. That's how serious we feel the situation is. So when a foundation says 6, 7, 8%, please praise us for our courage in doing that, I resist.
Yes.
Because this is a severe situation, and I know giving circle people understand that.
Yes, and actually, the whole theme of We Give Summit this year is about supporting civil society organizations, nonprofits, because we have seen the crisis that is coming, all the funding being cut out. And there's a lot of fear on the side of foundations when, as you're saying, like foundations should be moving and mobilizing a lot more money. So I want to move into the fake rules.
Okay.
Right? You have the whole
we were getting close right there.
Break
Yeah,
fake
there it is.
rules,
Yes.
podcast. And for someone that is listening to that idea for the first time, what makes a rule fake? And give us 2 or 3 that are, examples of fake rules that are most worth breaking right now.
So if this were the podcast,
Yeah.
and so people can see this when they're on the podcast, Claire always makes sure, Claire's a producer of the podcast, she always makes sure there's a list behind us.
Of fake rules?
Yeah, they're all right there. They travel with me all around the country, and our co-hosts. So a fake rule, we are strong believers in the rule of law here.
Mhm.
We never want anyone to engage in any illegal activity. But there are a whole bunch of things that are not laws, and they are not even established rules. So, for example, and this is all tied to control.
Mhm.
So the reason we're getting into fake rules is because when you start to challenge the point of the book, by the way, is not to say donors are bad and they're all a bunch of control freaks. The point of the book is to say that we all have an element of control in us.
Yeah.
Especially when the society is telling us that we should. So we give permission as a society to this kind of giving in the United States. That's my argument.
Mm.
So what happens when people are in that kind of control is they sort of establish norms and practices, and those practices and norms kind of become pervasive across
Because while we're
sector
doing
of
it,
the
we're
system.
all believing it, and
We're
we're
all
just
buying it.
repeating them.
So the amazing one to me, the one that we challenged here, and I'm very grateful to Joyce Stupski when she was alive. She was the one who turned this foundation into a spend out foundation. She did that.
Yes.
No one on staff now had any influence over Joyce. So I know I'm unique in that. A lot of there's CEOs listening who are interested in becoming a spend out. It is a project to get your board to go to spend out. I know that. And we have had the real benefit of having been in boardrooms, and we are always happy to join you in the boardroom with your board members to talk about spending out. I know it's hard. So we came in, and I just want to admit, I had a little bit of the wind behind my back. She was a spend out person. But that fake rule of perpetuity is the biggie.
Yeah.
It is, I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it became the norm. My dream, when people say, well, what will be success for the Stupski Foundation and all the effort and time and energy we've put into the reform side of the sector, I would love it if we get to a place where a donor has to justify perpetuity rather than having to justify spending out.
Yes.
Because it's become such the dominant norm. We don't even think about it. It's like, they talk about the metaphor of the fish in an aquarium, and one says to the other, how's the water? And the other one says, what's water? That's kind of the way we are with perpetuity. Like,
Yes.
we just assume that and worse with donor advised funds. I don't think anyone talks about a spend down approach to donor advised funds. But what that rule has done is it's created severe scarcity in the sector. We are all here together talking about ways to help nonprofits, all here talking about ways to advance the causes we care about. And for foundations, they're talking about it in a 5% environment.
Yeah.
By choice. By choice. By choice. They are choosing to spend out only 5% a year. And then they are choosing to put 95% into investments that will earn more than 5%. And we don't question this. And
Yeah.
I think if you just question it for a second, which I think is a great exercise for anyone who's struggling to understand what I'm talking about with control. If you just question these two concepts, investing in non-mission activity with 95% of your assets and 5% mission oriented, that is, in my opinion, terribly irrational.
Totally.
It does not make any sense for a group of people that are trying to do good.
To put it more, and we're going to go to Q&A in a second, but can you tell the audience that decision of spending down, you have moved $600 million in 15 years instead of 150 million.
150. Yeah.
So that is like the best example of what is possible, right? And what I love that you mentioned in the book is just to ask the question, how can you, believe that those assets are better to keep in the foundation than to be moved into communities, right? I feel that's the question. And that would be the question even, with $50,000 of a $20,000 donor advice fund,
Absolutely.
Right? Is the money doing better sitting on the DAF, or is it better to be moved into communities?
I love that you said that, Sara, because people ask me all the time, is your book for people that are not billionaires?
It is.
And of course it is.
Yes.
But I'm a dramatic person. So I go to the dramatic. I go to the billions because I think that gets people's attention more. And I'm always looking for attention. But in reality, it applies to everyone.
Yeah.
It really does. I mean, and that's the interesting thing. I don't know why someone hasn't written this book. Maybe they have. You can tell me if they have. But there should be a book called What Big Donors Can Learn from Small Donors.
We all should be writing that one.
I think that really should be it. You don't tend to see when someone says, not everybody creates a foundation, but they probably, I know I do. In our house, we say, hey, we're going to give away some money this year. Mm-hmm. We don't have a foundation. We don't have a donor advised fund in my home. So we have a budget. And we say we're going to give it away. And I never turn to my wife, and she never turns to me and says, okay, we're going to give out this much money, but only this year we're only going to give 5%, and we're going to put the rest in a bank account. And we're going to do that so that next year we can give 5% of the same money, and we're going to change the world. I mean, that's never our attitude.
The money that we're keeping there is being invested in.
Foundations,
Correct.
Program staff, this is another one. This is my big recommendation to program staff. You should demand to sit in on investment committee meetings, and you should go through the investment portfolio of your foundation. And for those of you that hold donor advised funds, if you are with any of the major donor advised fund providers, you should ask them, what are they invested in? Because if you're giving, let's say you have a donor advised fund with a couple $100,000 in it, and you're giving away $5,000, $20,000 a year out of that, and you are in a provider that has millions in, let's say, real estate speculation, and you as a donor advised fund holder are giving money to unhoused causes, but they are invested in real estate speculation, you are being outpowered in a huge way. Their work, the provider, is unhousing more people than your $20,000 can possibly house. How does that make sense? How does that make sense? And that, again, I was just talking with someone the other day about here. I have to actually look, I should do this, to see how many times the word irrational comes up in the index of control. Because every time someone reads a passage from it, I hear the word irrational come up. It's so pervasive in a controlling environment. You end up with irrationality everywhere.
Totally. I'm going to move to Q&A. There are a lot of questions. So I'm going to be kind of collapsing questions, but okay, there are a couple or three that are about how do you talk to wealthy donors about this concept? And what kind of feedback have you gotten? How is that feedback evolving with time?
Oh, two great questions. Thank you.
I know that you speak with a lot of wealthy donors.
I do get that opportunity, and I know it's a privilege that I have. I've worked with thousands of donors over the years. I didn't go into this business saying I really want to hang out with wealthy people, but I've ended up doing that. So this is the part where we can all take action. I wrote this book not because I wanted to write a book. Believe me, having written one, don't know if it'll ever happen again. I didn't go in to write a book. I didn't go into it to make myself someone that would get to be on this show today. The reason we wrote this book was because I was speaking with a lot of next generation donors. These are young people who are just starting to get access to the Family Foundation. And a common thing that happens for next gens, and if you're not in this situation, good for you, but a lot of them are invited into the family's thing and they're told, do what we say. and they get frustrated.
Mhm.
And they've come to me and they've said, I know you work with a lot of donors. What kinds of things can I do to get dad and grandpa and grandma to let me be a part of this in a more productive way? How do I get them to hear me? They're so controlling.
Yes.
So I thought to myself, I should put a pamphlet together that just starts with the word,
How to.
Grandpa, you are controlling. And I'm afraid to tell you that. That's this book. And so what I'm encouraging people to do is I know this book is getting around. We were at a lot of conferences and we're giving out copies in many cases. I know you have a discount today too. We are selling them. But the reason we're handing them out is because we definitely want all of you to read it. And this is a validating group. I know a lot of what I'm saying today is not coming as a surprise to your audience. And if that's true, then read the book quickly as you did and hand it to the wealthiest person in your life. Hand it to the person that you think needs a little bit of something around control, because it is hard to go to a donor and say, you're being controlling. But it's easy to hand them a book. And I can tell you, my staff, when I'm being controlling, oftentimes sends me news articles or or things they see in Inside Philanthropy. And they'll say, Glenn, you should read this. It might apply to you.
Yes.
So that's the one thing. And the other question was?
No, it was exactly
Okay.
the same. How is that feedback evolving over time?
So here's an interesting thing. As you may all know, in this sector, we tend to be conflict avoidant and celebratory of each other, which is nice. And I think we all want to do good. So when someone comes along who says, um, um, I love that you're doing good, but you could do good better. I think you could do good better. I think we here at Stupski talk all the time about how we can do this better.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, when they hear that, they hear you're a bad person or you aren't doing a good job. Mm-hmm. And I think that's hard for anyone who's trying to do good. Elise Belusa at the Terra Health Foundation has been writing a lot about the mindset of good that we all want to be. And I really love what she's getting into. I think it's really hard for us to criticize ourselves and to be constructive and challenge each other, because I will tell you, I have posted things on LinkedIn that has gotten some major blowback from people. They've called me harmful. They've called me insulting. And I think that is the result of me. I don't actually think I'm those things.
No,
I might be a little edgy at times, but I don't think the sector is particularly used to having someone, especially a CEO of a private foundation, someone who's in the brethren, questioning each other. And I wish they would push back, but they don't. They tend to remain silent. When they come at me, they tend to come at me in private settings as if I'm going to need it to be private. I don't. If someone wants to question me on LinkedIn and have a debate, I would, wow, what a day. Actually, one person did do it, and Kevin Starr is his name. He's the head of the Milagro Foundation. I think it's Milagro Foundation. And he wrote a review of this book like 2 days after it came out. And he said, super disappointing book, Glenn, but everyone should read it. And we ended up having this nice exchange on LinkedIn. We're going to try to get him on Break Fake Rules. I love that.
Yes.
And I wish we did that more.
Yes.
But there is feedback out there, I can tell you, and it's coming from private settings.
Love it. Thank you. I think we have time for one more. Two more. Awesome.
Two more, all right.
Okay. Someone is asking, I'm curious if Glenn can answer how the Stupski Foundation invests its endowment.
Great.
To his point that the majority of foundations' money is not mission related. It's Stupski participating in impact investing. I know you write about that in the book.
Well, I hope people will read that chapter. In fact, if I were to write another book, it will be only on this topic. And so great question. For the better part of Stupski's existence, we were invested in some very toxic stuff.
Yeah.
And I will admit, this is one of the things I really regret. When I was hired, Joyce very kindly, I think it was a very nice gesture, said to me, you don't worry about the investment side. You worry about making sure we have a grant-making strategy. And I think this happens all the time. And I do think it was of best intentions. She wanted me to not worry about the money. She said, we do a great job with our investing. We're going to continue. And she did. She was a great investor. So were all the people that worked with her. A few years later, we were in COVID. And when I would go to investment committee meetings and I was relatively quiet, they didn't they weren't looking for my opinion all that much. And so I had an opportunity while sitting there quietly. Now I was kind of bored. I'm on a screen. I went ahead and opened up one of my other windows and just started going through our funds. So we had these large hedge fund accounts. 2 of them were in the Grand Cayman Islands.
You're like,
So that means, as you know, this entity, a foundation, is essentially a tax dodging instrument. We were tax dodging inside a tax dodging instrument. So that really bothered me.
Yes.
And then we were having a conversation about investment, and one of the investment advisors said, well, we're down a little bit, but casinos always come back. I'm like, casinos, you know, like we're here trying to help people with advancing their life options and helping them to doing the best we can to support them in their growth as humans. And we're investing in casinos. Value wise, it felt very wrong. Mm-hmm. So I will admit, when Joyce passed away, I never did have this conversation with her. I truly regret it. It was a lack of courage on my part that I didn't sit with her and say, hey, I really struggle with our investments. When she passed away and a new board was assembled, we assembled it to completely liquidate everything out of for-profit investing. So I'm a radical on this one. I know there is great hope for the impact investing world, and I have that hope. And I have lots of friends. I'll be with one next week, a foundation leader who is a major proponent of impact investing, and she schools me on this all the time. I simply think it's not, I struggle with making money on charitable dollars that should be in the hands of nonprofit entities and not in the hands of hedge funds, personally. Mm-hmm. Or even, you know, taking big risks on an impact investing strategy. Now, the only thing I will say is we do invest in PRIs, and currently we have about 35 million of our remaining dollars, which will slowly.
Can you tell the audience what a PRI is?
Program related investments. So that tends to be lots of things, but we provide capital for community lenders. Mm-hmm. And when we do, we give it without interest, no interest requirements. Perfect. So it's only principal. And I won't go into long stories because I know I'm very long-winded today. But what I will say is that when you give a no-interest loan to someone, to any entity, it's game-changing.
Yes, totally.
And I think about some of my peers who are sitting on billions of dollars in their portfolios. And I just think to myself, man, if one of them would put $1 billion out in no-interest loans, you could change entire communities overnight. I do believe that. Because we haven't. We have moved money, contributed PRI capital to organizations that have changed lives overnight with that capital. And I wish when I go back in time, when I think back to the beginning of Stupski, for me, Stupski's been around a lot longer than me as the CEO. I wish I had had the experience to know that we should have moved all of those assets initially into no interest loans. I think we would have had far more impact than we could have imagined.
Yes, totally. To piggyback on that question, there is a question about, isn't the idea that if you don't spend down the capital, then the initial investment can continue to pay out in perpetuity? So over time, a lot more money will be given away that if it's spent down. What am I missing?
Well, the first thing you're missing, we just covered.
Yes.
For you to earn above 5%, I mean, you know, maybe you've got great investment people who are completely socially aligned with your mission and would never do anything to harm anyone with their investments.
However,
but that's a massive risk, in my opinion. And we don't talk enough about risk on the mission side. We talk a lot about risk on the investment side, but we don't talk about the risk of harm. And so, in my opinion, there are huge risks taken in living in perpetuity if you are mission oriented, if that's what you're living for. Okay. So that's the argument. That question is coming from a place of, let's not pay attention to the harm. Let's only pay attention to the good we're trying to do. And that's where I think the reflection is really important. We have to ask these questions of ourselves. If we're really in this for the mission, why aren't we looking at the mission orientation of all of our investments?
And the whole idea of kind of saving the money for, something horrible that is going to happen in 10 years.
Right.
It's like we saw it at the pandemic.
So,
money should have been moved. A lot more money should have been moved during the pandemic.
I agree.
Like, what is that horrible tragedy that we're waiting for, right? Like, the money should be moved now.
So that's another thing, and I know we're short on time, but this is a concept I've been playing with a lot, and we have a newsletter called Who Gives, and I'm going to get to this topic soon enough, but I really want to explore the idea of compounded impact versus compounded interest.
Yes.
And so what this question is coming from is, well, you get this compounded interest over time, you grow your portfolio, and you can give more later. What if you flip that equation and you thought about compounded impact? If you gave more now, the impact of that grant or of that portfolio being dumped out into community now instead of holding it for later will have compounded impact effect. And this is, I need data to back me up more on this, but anyone can look at that and say, that's probably true. We know that from organizations we have given substantially to beyond what our 5% budget would have allowed, that they have they've gotten development teams together, they've invested their own money differently, they have grown their capacity to grow their impact now, and that will continue to grow over time. What's better? Is it better for them to be growing their impact or for us to be growing interest in real estate speculation in our bank accounts? I'll choose compounded impact any day.
Yes, totally. Me too. I know we're running out of time, but I have a last actionable question before we close. So if everyone listening today, right, Giving Circle members, pulling, a few $1,000s, people advising family foundations, community foundation staff, everyone did one thing differently starting tomorrow, what's the single highest leverage move? What can people in the audience do apart from buying the book?
Look, this is a tough crowd for you because you're all. So many people listening right now are in the game. I think the most important thing people can do is talk to other people who give away money. If you are advising a foundation, I know this is hard, and Claire and I talk about this all the time because I make a lot of requests of foundations. So I'm going to make one of nonprofits too, and of people that work with foundations. I think it's imperative that we put pressure on this system. And the only way I think you can put pressure on it, you can do it two ways. You can do a policy play if you want to, which I think is hard. We didn't even get into policy, but we don't need to. I think when you're trying to change a culture, when you're trying to change a mindset, we all have to find it in us to go up against the power structure. And I know I am in a privileged place as a CEO of a foundation, and I'm happy to keep doing it as long as people want me to. But if anyone, I think, can turn to someone who gives money or turns to someone who works in an organization that gives money and challenge them to break fake rules, don't let them off the hook. Not in a mean way, but question, be curious, wonder. Why perpetuity? Why 5%? And they might say to you, I don't know, I'm not on the board. Everyone has the power to influence. Everyone has that power. And I think this is something we just don't do enough in our sector, is to advocate on ourselves. We talk a lot about advocating outwardly, which I think is critically important, but we rarely talk about advocating internally. We hold so much power and resource in this sector. We need to be advocating internally, and everyone can do it.
Yes, and even, for people that have TAFs, right?
Yes.
Something that you can do tomorrow is start giving more away.
You can absolutely give away more. And as I said earlier, why don't you, if you're at Vanguard or you're at Fidelity, ask them, ask them two questions. Why can't you give to the Southern Poverty Law Center? And number two, what are we invested in? When you invest my money, what's it invested in? Just ask. What's the harm?
Thank you, Glenn. Last question. Do we have time for one
more last question?
One more last question. Yeah, the last.
Like an encore. Yeah, like an encore.
And I know, I'm so sorry. All the questions that were in the Q&A window, we didn't have time to do it. But
I'm sorry because I can't say anything.
If you read the book, you will get all those questions answered. But the book is called Control. But it's really about letting go.
It is. It really is.
So what have you had to let go of to write this book and leave this argument? And what are you still working on letting go of?
Okay, so I think I'm letting go future employment. I can't imagine there's in this crowd, I might have a shot, but I think I can't imagine a donor right now is going, that's the guy I want to work with right there. I hope there are.
I think,
maybe,
of course,
maybe,
yes.
maybe. I mean,
especially next gen donors and people that are, making their.
well, we'll see. And that was not. I mean, we're pitching my book. We're pitching my career. I think that what are we letting? I mean, the foundation has let go of a lot, and it's been every time it's been to the benefit. And as the CEO of the foundation, I have tried to structure an organization where everyone on the team has a tremendous amount of power and authority to make powerful decisions that typically would be in the CEO's office. Mm-hmm. So, and I struggle with it. I'll admit, like even yesterday, I was in a meeting and I really wanted something to happen and I could see the rest of the group didn't. Yeah. And so I don't know, I'm not in the room of other CEOs, but I really believe so strongly in letting go that I did. I did let go. And I will tell you, it's not easy to let go. I saw Claire in the hallways as I was leaving yesterday, and we were looking at each other and I was feeling very dejected and like I lost something. But when I drove home that night, I was thinking, you know what, I actually got something. Yes. I guaranteed that our culture continues. And if anyone's going to screw up that culture, it's going to be me. I'm the one who's going to demand something that no one else wants. And I think that is a real issue. And that, by the way, is a lot of what donors do. They demand things that not necessarily what communities want. And being attuned to that is hard work, especially when you're in a position of power. But that is what is required.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think another thing that all of us can do is listening more to communities, right? Like if you're part of a giving circle, a collaborative fund, a women's fund, a mutual aid society, like just listen more than trying to control. And I don't remember, my team is going to kill me because I don't know if I should pass it to Sophia now or I should do all the announcements. I guess I'm going to do all the announcements.
I can step in here.
I know, super behind the scenes.
But we're being told it's almost like a telethon.
Yes.
It's like a telethon. We're going to get an update any second.
Yes. Thank you so much, Glenn.
Thank you, Sara.
Fantastic. And
it's been great.
And thank you, for Claire and Steve and to have the whole production here. I mean, we feel very special and we just want to thank you that. So I'm guessing, the poll. The poll. Everybody answer the poll on your screen.
You see, it is
so
a telethon.
that way we can, we need your feedback to make We Give Summit better. And also the raffle winner, you will be getting a message in the chat privately because I don't know who that is. And I see Destiny, you are the raffle winner. And get ready to our next session around collaborative funds with Isis Krauss. Please keep engaging in Huba, take pictures, put the hashtag We Give Summit and tag us, and just keep engaging. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.